In this session, we're going to talk about importing an Excel spreadsheet into BidMetrics. To get started, I want to talk about just a couple key things to keep in mind as far as terminology goes. If I take a look at another project I've already got going on here, you'll see that they've got a main level of alternate. So it could be base bid, it could be alternates, it could just be different things that I want to keep track of as major options and so forth. That type of thing. Within an alternate, I get my different CSI kind of divisions, so that way it's group and work together by what's considered a bid metric. So you've got alternate the first level, bid metrics being the second level. The third level is basically your phases that make up your bid metrics. So these are my phases. So alternate, bid metrics, phase. If I were to open up a metrics, keep in mind that each one of the phases can also have items associated under that phase. So those are all things that can be brought in when I'm importing, and those are key because when we bring in an Excel spreadsheet, it doesn't matter the order or the columns of your spreadsheet. It matters that you match them up with where you want them in BidMetrics. So for example, if I open up this Excel spreadsheet I've got, in my case, all these columns are messed up. They're not named what they need to be. Don't really care. I'm going to map them when it comes to bringing this job in. So for example, this thing called building, where I've got some building A stuff and some building B stuff, that's what I'm going to use for alternate, because I want to keep track of building A separate from building B and run them almost like two separate bids within this project. But this could be, base bid, alternate one, alternate two, all that type of stuff also. If I come over to the other side, this is what I'm going to use for my bid metrics. So my major divisions of work of HARS, I want all my concrete stuff lumped together. I want all my earthwork stuff lumped together and things like that. Within a bid metrics, we're going to have these phases of work to check scope on and so forth. And within a particular phase, I can have multiple line items that make that particular phase up. So that's kind of my detail as far as what I'm looking at here. So that way it can come from, other estimating systems. It could come from an Excel spreadsheet if somebody's using estimating for it. Whatever it is, you can import it as long as you can kind of think about, what these columns are and how you're going to match them up with the bid metrics columns. So let's get started. I'm going to jump back to my projects. I'm going to create a new project. I'm going to say I want to import Excel. And I don't really care about the owner, the job size, or really the bid date at this point in time. I just want to get where I can create a new project. Now that I got my new project, I'm going to open it up, and I'm going to say I want to import an estimate. So when I go up to this button for import estimate, it's then going to come up and say, is it a Sage estimate? Is it a WinEst estimate? Things like that. In this case here, I'm going to say it's an Excel spreadsheet. When I go to next, it's going to say, drop your estimate in that location. So I'm going to grab that Excel spreadsheet and drop it in that location. So this is where I was saying earlier, these are my bid metrics fields. These are all the different columns that was in your Excel spreadsheet. So this is how you map what you want it to go to in bid metrics to whatever it may be called in your Excel spreadsheet. So item code, in my case, I had a column out there called item that was just a code for each item to be different, though they don't have to be. My item name, I'm going to say is just going to be my straight description. Takeoff quantity and unit, I must have imported before at some point and told it to say the settings or whatever. So, it already matched up the takeoff quantity and unit column. So those look good to me. The total, I'm going to say is total amount. Alternate code. Now, in my case, it's got an alternate code and an alternate name. I only had one column. I don't really have it separate. So I'm going to just go ahead and bring it in as alternate code. Is going to be my building. So that's going to be my building A versus B in my example. Name, I'm going to leave blank. My bid package, that was going to be my group for my major divisions of work. My description for that group is right next to it. My phase code is going to be just the phase. And then the description for the phases are going to be my phase description. So as you can see, these are all the main key fields within bid metrics to start with, and where I can map them to whatever columns that might be in my Excel spreadsheet. So when I hit next here, now I've got my project. So I didn't put anything to base bid, so I have no money there or anything starting off. So I'm going to take a look at my building A versus B. So you can kind of see this was my alternate. this was my bid metrics. Within a particular bid metrics, I could see my different phases of work. So those are all the different phases that I'm going to be checking scope on and so forth. If I were to open up the bid metrics within each one of my phases of work, this is where I could go back and actually see my item supplement. So this is where I could see all the different line items that made up that particular cost code or phase. So maybe I've got a heading here for some reinforcing. So reinforcing in my case is only, some rebar. Versus the top one had a lot more items under it and so forth. So that's basically how you import from an Excel spreadsheet. So the key is really thinking about in bid metrics, you got to think about if you want items, what that item description would be, what's your alternate going to be, what's your bid metrics going to be, what's your phases going to be. And you can import any, length of estimate and things like that to get you started. So the main thing is just matching up for, what you want to your main, and that might just be base bid. Everything in the whole darn estimate might just go associated with the base bid because maybe I don't have a detailed breakdown on my alternates, or you might have alternate 1, 2, 3, that type of thing. So key there again, alternate, bid metrics, phase, and then within a phase, my items. So thinking about what you want in each one of those positions within the product, and when you dump out your or go to import your Excel spreadsheet, mapping the right columns to the right information. That's a basic one. Please join us on the next session where we're going to get into talking about importing WBS codes and categories. So maybe I can see labor, material, and other categories and so forth into more detail. Thanks for watching.